You want the camera on, by the way?
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May God's peace and blessings be upon you. Thank you for joining us today for our Sunday program. We have a very distinguished guest speaker, Dr. Marwa Moustafa, who will be presenting today on the art of gratitude from a social emotional perspective. Dr. Marwa Moustafa is a longtime member of the ICSC community who has served on the Sunday School PTO, the Youth Services Committee, and both the Sunday School Board and the Board of the ICSC. She is a pediatrician at Children's Hospital Los Angeles and is passionate about the physical, mental, and spiritual health of children and young adults. So please give a warm welcome to Dr. Marwa Moustafa. Yes.
Okay. Let me do this then.
But if you do a presentation mode, they won't see it.
Okay.
That's the only.
Okay, that's fine.
Um,
That's okay. Okay. Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Thank you all for coming today. I'm very excited to do this presentation. This is a topic that's actually very close to my heart, and the idea of gratitude and what I know it has done for me in my life has been very impactful. And now we're at a point where science has actually caught up with what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has been telling us ever since the Quran was offered to us, offered to humanity. And so we can back up with science and data. Oops. This is the first of a two-part series on gratitude during this month of Thanksgiving. Today, we'll be focusing on the social, emotional, and health perspectives of gratitude. And next week, we're going to talk about gratitude from an Islamic perspective. Who's doing the talk next week? Is it Dr. Okay, wonderful. So we have a two-part series, which I think is so wonderful. I love celebrating Thanksgiving. I love it for so many reasons. I love gathering with family and friends around food. I love watching the little ones grow from one year to the next, watch them grow up and develop. I love the part, especially where we go around the table and discuss what we're thankful for. It's pretty predictable. The younger kids every year are thankful for concrete things like their new Xbox or their new sneakers, Air Jordans, etc. Adolescents are usually grateful for their academic accomplishments, maybe some of their extracurricular activities or some sports. Those of us who are sort of in that middle age group are perhaps excited about a new professional advancement, career development, purchasing a new house, and the elderly are often grateful about their health and being surrounded by loved ones. And when I'm sitting there listening to other people express their gratitude and surrounded by the reminders of our bounty, I become awash with emotion. What is there to be grateful for? We're in tough times. I think we can all admit and accept that we're in tough times. This past year has been an inescapable waking nightmare. The future is uncertain and appears bleak in many ways, and it's easy to fall into a state of despair and hopelessness. It's easy to see the things that are visible that we could be grateful for. Our wealth, our homes, our families, our children, the things that we see and touch every single day. It's harder sometimes to be grateful for the invisible, the things like safety, the feeling of love, having health, and each one of us comes here with a different story. The highs and lows of life are part of being human. And even from a health perspective, there are things that we can control and things that we can't, and things we can be grateful for. And the idea of friendship and protection from harm. What I hope to demonstrate over the next few minutes is how the antidote to hopelessness is free, it's portable, and it's infectious. Gratitude is the prescription, if you will, to despair. And what I mean by that is that you can use gratitude to take you out of almost any situation. We tend to take for granted what we cannot see. The breath we take, the blinking of our eyelids, our heartbeat, our sense of touch, our ability to smell, to hear, and to be able to distinguish sounds, to taste different flavor profiles. And one of the unseen blessings that we have that I really wanted to talk about even was sleep, the blessing of sleep that we take for granted. That's when our brain rewires. That's when our immunity builds. And again, it's one of the unseen things. I say all this to say that the state of gratitude is the ultimate goal. That is the blessing, because being grateful for material things is short-lived. Items come and go, things fall apart, they get lost and break, governments rise and fall, our bodies age, and loved ones pass. But the giver of these things, our glorious Creator, is eternal, and He has offered us gratitude as a salve to the inevitable highs and lows of a full life. Excuse me for 1 second. I think I may have. Did I skip a slide? Sorry, I'm going back real quick. Okay, no, my apologies. Okay, so I am a pediatrician at Children's Hospital, and inevitably, one of the things that I have heard over and over again is, how do you work there? I couldn't work there. I couldn't work there. Every time I walk in, it would make me sad. And the truth is, every time I walk through those doors, I'm confronted with families that are going through trials, and I see deep love. I see deep faith. I see strength. I see friendship. I see colleagues that work selflessly. And it reminds me, literally every time I walk through the doors, to be grateful, because there's always something to be grateful for. I wanted to just spend a minute talking about cultural differences in expressing gratitude. So I thought this was kind of interesting. When we talk about many Muslim cultures, we express gratitude by doing dua for another person, praying for their well-being, prosperity, health, and longevity. It's such a beautiful gift to give and receive when they're uttered with love and sincerity. And I've personally come to appreciate them more and more as I've gotten older. In the hospital, I actually am so touched when my non-Muslim patients will say, "Thank you and God bless you." Oops, I'm so sorry. This has a mind of its own. It's very powerful and moving to me. In the US, we teach our kids to say thank you from a young age. Did you say thank you? And in fact, for us, not saying thank you is considered very rude. Can you believe I held the door open and they didn't even thank me? So the verbal is the way we express gratitude in the United States. My husband is South Asian, and culturally for South Asians, speaking thank you is rare, but the actions is how they describe their gratitude. And one thing that I absolutely love is if somebody brings a platter of food, the way you show appreciation is you never return the platter empty. You return the platter with something on it, some fruit or another item, and that's the way that they show gratitude. And interestingly, the animal kingdom demonstrates their gratitude all the time. This morning, I was reminded that animals show gratitude as well. We have a feral cat that lives on our property. We adopted her from the Pasadena Humane Society. She lives outside. She's never been domesticated, and we feed her every morning. And she waits for me by the front door at the same time for me to come out. When we first got her, every time I'd walk out the door, she'd hiss at me. But as the years have gone by, she waits for me at the front. As I walk to the garage to get her food, she weaves in and out of my leg, between my legs. And as I put the food in her bowl, she always rubs her head against my feet. And this is her this morning. This is Willa. Okay, we're going to talk a little bit about developing gratitude. There is an abundance of health data, which we're going to get into, that has demonstrated that practicing gratitude can have tangible impact on physical health, on mental health, mental performance, emotional well-being, and improve relationships. Gratitude is something that can result in a rewiring of our brains and nervous systems to process negative emotions differently. And what can happen is your brain and your nervous system can be rewired to push down the negative emotions and prioritize the positive emotions that come from practicing gratitude. It can transform how we see the world. And from a neurophysiologic perspective, what the mind focuses on, the mind believes. I think we're learning more and more about the mind-gut connection, the mind-brain connection, and our brains and our bodies are highly coordinated. When we soften the mind, we soften the body. And what we focus on and is where our energy goes. And I always tell our kids and my patients about the monster inside. Our emotions can create a monster. And the more you feed that monster, the bigger it gets. And the bigger it gets, the hungrier it gets. And the hungrier it gets, the more you feed it. So if that emotion is negative, like anxiety or stress or anger or frustration, it's this constant loop of feeding the monster. But if you feed a positive emotion, it's like feeding a fruit tree. The more you feed it, the bigger it gets. The bigger it gets, the more fruit it'll produce. The more fruit it produces, the bigger the canopy is, and so on and so forth. Gratitude can help your relationships. It's a skill that helps you heal. It gives you a greater depth of compassion for yourself and for others, and it's relational. Oftentimes during hard times, we feel very much alone, and that is what can be hard about it. But practicing gratitude reminds you you're not alone. You can rely on your faith. You can rely on your creator. You can rely on your friends and your colleagues or your loved ones, and that helps you get through those tough times. It arises when we pay more attention to our relationships and all the depth and beauty that they provide, removing the focus from the me that our society promotes, this hedonistic, what's best for me as long as I'm happy, as long as it makes me happy. And gratitude allows you to actually be grateful for where you are and be happy for someone else. Oops, sorry. And I'm not talking about just showing gratitude to your own close family or friends, but studies have shown that regular demonstrated gratitude affects your day-to-day interactions, even outside with your loved ones, with colleagues, with classmates, and people in the outside world. I think if we all reflect on our history and our past, we realize that the most profound feelings of gratitude often come from the most difficult times. It has the ability to increase empathy, enhances self-esteem. Why? Because if I'm grateful for my position in life, I can be happy for your promotion at work. Your promotion at work doesn't threaten me or make me feel bad about myself because I'm grateful for where I am. So I can sincerely be happy for you. There is an abundance of data that talks about how gratitude improves and increases mental strength. And it increases mental strength looking back. It can reframe or buffer a tough or traumatic experience, but it also can protect against future traumas. I've gotten through it once. I can get through it again. Alhamdulillah, God was by my side. He's never forsaken me. And I think the idea of in any situation, you can always ask yourself, what else is also true? You got laid off from your job. What else is also true? I have enough savings to get me through for a few months. I need to have knee surgery. What else is true? My boss is amazing. They said I could work from home while I recover so that I can continue to get paid. And I'm going to share a story. It's a Chinese fable that I love when I think about gratitude. This story comes to mind. It's an ancient story. Once upon a time, there was a Chinese farmer whose horse ran away. That evening, all of his neighbors came around to commiserate. They said, "We are so sorry to hear your horse has run away. That's most unfortunate." The farmer said, "Maybe." The next day, the horse came back, bringing 7 wild horses with it. And in the evening, everybody came back and said, "Oh, isn't that lucky? What a great turn of events. You now have 8 horses. You're so lucky." The farmer again said, "Maybe." The following day, his son tried to train one of the horses, and while riding it, he was thrown and broke his leg. The neighbors then said, "Oh dear, that's such bad luck." And the farmer responded, "Maybe." The next day, the draft officers came around to draft young men to join the army. His son was rejected because he had a broken leg. Again, the neighbors came by and said, "Isn't that great?" And again, the farmer said, "Maybe." I love this story because it's a reminder that in every situation, there is a blessing. In every situation, there is room for gratitude. Wherever you are in life today, you are living in some way or another an answer to a prayer you may have made in the past. And so trying to remember that whatever your life, whatever you're going through right now, somewhere in there is an answer to a prayer that you made. It helps reframe your perspective a little bit. Okay, so for all the skeptics in the audience who think that this is a bunch of mumbo jumbo, all the science and stuff behind gratitude, I want to start off this slide by saying there is long-term data that has demonstrated that having regular gratitude practices are as effective, as potent, and as long-lasting as the positive effects that come from exercise and as the positive effects that come from, in some cases, even medications to treat some medical conditions. And we'll talk about what some of those are, and improve physical, emotional, and neurobiological health outcomes. I want you to take a second to just think about that. Practicing gratitude can have the same effect as the endorphin rush you get after exercise or using some medications to treat some things. That's incredible. Experiencing gratitude invokes certain thought processes in the brain, and they actually can show up on neuroimaging studies like MRIs. It's the specific part of the brain that releases serotonin. Serotonin is a chemical that regulates mood and happiness, and that goes on to communicate to the muscles in your body to respond accordingly, your heart, your gut, your inflammatory markers. So I have some slides that talk about, these are from CDC.gov, the Centers for Disease Control. Gratitude may be the best kept secret to help reduce stress and feel better. Practicing gratitude every day can improve your physical and emotional well-being. From the NIH.gov, National Institutes of Health website, taking the time to feel gratitude may improve your emotional well-being by helping you cope with stress. Early research suggests, so sorry, I don't know why it keeps doing that. Early research suggests that a daily practice of gratitude could affect the body, and gratitude was linked to fewer signs of heart disease. From the UCLA Health website, practicing gratitude can reduce depression, lessen anxiety, support heart health, reduce stress, and improve sleep. Virginia Health, being thankful even for the little things helps to lower stress, improve blood pressure, and even reduce inflammation. That's mind-blowing to me. I love this quote. Do not be so attached to your expectations of the future that you become ungrateful for the blessings God has given you in the present moment. This is something that I constantly remind myself, that we constantly remind our children. We must recognize the blessings of the present. We can't tell ourselves, we will be grateful when I make that soccer team. We will be grateful when I get into college. We will be grateful when I get that coveted job. We will be grateful when we buy our first house. Because what you're forgetting is when you get into college, you're leaving your high school where your teachers know you all by first name and they know your older brother and your sister. When you get that coveted first job, maybe the commute's going to be a little bit longer. You're going to miss your colleagues that you laughed and joked together. When you buy your first house, you're going to miss that tiny little apartment that had that great coffee shop next door and the neighbor across the street that would bake cookies and bring them over. You have to find the gratitude in the place that you're in right now, and you can't wait for something to happen to be happy or grateful. I think back to COVID, and COVID was, for many of us, a very dark time. But I'm going to tell you something. We had family dinners during COVID every day. We sat down as a family and had dinner. One child didn't have to go off to soccer practice and the other one didn't have to go off to dance practice. We had so many laughing fits over the crazy haircuts we had to give our own kids, and somebody would come out lopsided or somebody's hair would be like this. And we still have photos about that. We checked in on each other. We learned to FaceTime and we learned to Zoom. We talked to family members we hadn't seen in a long time. There were blessings during that difficult time. Okay, so practicing gratitude daily can impact your long-term well-being. I've covered that already. And each person sort of has to find the right gratitude practice for them. Okay, it doesn't have to be regimented, but it should be an intentional process. Take time to actually think about what you're grateful for throughout the day, overcoming obstacles, your health, your career, etc. It's important to feel the gratitude inwardly, the specific experiences and the feeling they evoked. And it's also important to experience it outwardly, because receiving gratitude is important for the brain rewiring we talked about. Think about a person that did something for you that you're grateful for. Write a letter or call them to let them know why. Think of someone who changed your life for the better, perhaps someone you haven't seen for a while, or thank them. Why is this important? Because not only is it a reminder to you, but it turns out the recipient of that gratitude, it rewires their brain too. It rewires their thinking and brings on the same emotions that you're experiencing when you thank them. And it's as, if not more, impactful. Do a favor for someone or consider volunteering. Do small acts of kindness. Volunteering has actually been shown to create community. And community is one of the things that's protective against loneliness and dementia in old age. Start a gratitude journal and write down people, places, and memories. I'm going to tell you all something. I hate to journal, so I'm putting this up there because people recommend it. I can't write in a journal. So for me, it's just about maybe during the day thinking about the things that I'm grateful for and not so much writing it down. But there are other people who will literally write down every day 3 things that they were grateful for. Okay. I want to talk about a gratitude walk. So I think we've all heard the health benefits of walking. It's therapeutic. It increases your circulation, decreases your blood pressure, improves heart health, decreases stress. One of the things we probably don't talk about enough is being in nature and the health benefits of nature. So playing outside as kids is something we did a lot, but lifestyles have changed and we spend less and less time outside and more of our activities are indoors and in artificial environments. Being outdoors is so important for vitamin D, getting vitamin D into your body from the sun, and walking itself increases bone density. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us so many benefits from all of the natural creations that He's placed on this earth for us to try to take advantage of. So when you're outside, it's the perfect alchemy of nature, exercise, and intentional gratitude. So when you're walking, combine it with an intentionally grateful state. Look at the color of the leaves. Notice how they change throughout the year. Listen to the sound of the birds, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. Smell the earth, smell the trees, and smell the plants. Feel the warmth of the sun or the drops of the rain. Breathe deeply. And by breathing deeply, I mean breathe deeply. Our lungs are composed of these big bronchi, and the airways get smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. And if you breathe deeply, you can actually reach those tiny, tiny alveoli. But you really have to take a deep breath and inhale the clean air that our plants decontaminate for us. Oops, I'm sorry. Funny enough, it has been shown that listening to bird songs can improve well-being, alleviate feelings of stress, anxiety, and depression. And the rhythmic and melodic patterns of bird songs are soothing to the mind and decrease mental fatigue. They actually create a reset, a mental reset. The different pitches, the different volumes, some sound like 2 birds are bickering, some sound like 2 birds have a love song. but it is actually soothing to the body. The sound of water running has the same effect. And time spent in green outdoor spaces can lower your blood pressure and your cortisol levels. And cortisol is the stress hormone. For those that don't have easy access to green outdoor spaces, studies have actually shown that caring for a houseplant in your apartment in an urban environment has been shown to reduce stress. When you care for that plant, you watch a new leaf bud or a flower blossom, you observe the fruit popping out or how the plant leans towards the sun when it grows. These things always put me in a state of gratitude and awe. So, yeah. Okay, so taking you back to my earlier statement about how working at Children's Hospital and seeing and hearing the stories of patients or their families that have been helped by my colleagues or by the hospital has helped me become more grateful. It's actually scientifically correlated, shockingly. So the human being organizes their brain through storytelling, and hearing or reading someone's story when they received help is actually a way of rewiring. Contemplating a time where you experience someone else's gratitude or sincere thanks can be rewiring. And so hearing human stories where individuals receive help or when a person puts themselves in the mindset of another evoke powerful feelings of gratitude, and it changes brain architecture. It can slow your heart rate and slow your breathing. And I'm going to end with a gratitude reflection. So what I would like you all to do, settle yourself comfortably in your chairs. I want you to take a deep breath. Try to get to the very, very smallest part of your airway and then breathe the entire thing out. And close your eyes. I want you to take 5 seconds to think about what you currently smell, touch, see, or hear. And I want you to say to yourself, for this, I am grateful. I want you to take 5 seconds to think about the people in your life who love you and who you love. And I want you to tell yourself, for this, I am grateful. I want you to tell yourself that you are a unique individual who has overcome obstacles with God's grace. You've gotten through hard times. You'll get through them again. And for that, you are grateful. And finally, I want to leave you with the realization that life is a precious gift. And for that, you are grateful. By God's grace, alhamdulillah. That's all I have. I think we have a few minutes for questions. Yes. Yes.
Doing bad things to us. And he knows he's going to go in the hellfire. And he also knows if he comes to God, ask forgiveness, he doesn't have to go to the hellfire, right?
Yeah.
So why he doesn't just come to God and say, I forgive you? That's number one. Number two is there's hadith I have read that there'll be 73 branches in Islam. Only one will go to heaven. And, want to tell me how I can avoid those three? Just give them one.
Okay. So I will start off by saying I do not claim to be a Islamic scholar or an academic or anything like that. So I'll start off by saying there are definitely experts here at the Islamic Center who could probably answer those questions better. But what I can tell you is this: ego is very hard. Our ego is very hard. And it's very hard to say I was wrong. So I think for some people, they would rather dig in their heels, in this case, shaitan, rather than admit wrongdoing. And in terms of the branches of Islam, I don't know that any of us knows what I do know is this is God's mercy and compassion and forgiveness is infinite and more than any of us could ever imagine in our wildest dreams. I don't believe that anyone has any idea who Allah will allow into heaven, but there are stories in hadith about the grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I don't know that we can judge who would get into heaven and who wouldn't. Yeah. Any other questions? Yeah. Oh, go ahead. Oh, sorry.
So first of all, thank you so much for sharing this. I always love your presentation.
Thank you.
The other is, I never, I guess, grasped the concept of breath. Like I get it and hear it, and it's like, okay, yeah, of course. Then recently, and I think because I would hear, late in this last year, I would see people in Palestine and everything they go through. And always hear them say alhamdulillah. Always hear them say, la ilaha illallah, when anytime anything happens. I don't hear that, and that really stood out to me. And I feel like that's what gives them resiliency, right? And then I was thinking back to when I was very young, my aunt, she was paralyzed, she was going through a lot of pain. She had lost everything, her job, her husband, her baby, everything. And she had a lot of pain. And I remember she would scream in pain, and then she would whisper, alhamdulillah, shkorak ya Rabbi, la ilaha illallah. And I never understood, like, how are you saying this? You live in bed. You are not so old. You are, So I asked her one time, and she goes, I say that because I am so thankful for so many things. I have you, I have Allah, I have my family. And this was such it was so impactful for me to hear her say that after all the pain that she went through. So I do think it gives a lot, like you're saying, the scientific correlation, the resilience to it.
Mhm.
What I struggle with is I would love to automatically say alhamdulillah and have that become part of my vernacular, part of my communication on a regular basis.
Mhm.
I would love to have that for my children,
Mhm.
but I feel like, I was talking to my cousin about it, and he's like, it doesn't just happen. It's not like these people just say it all the time, but you have to practice.
Mhm.
And that's the part that I don't know if anybody has ideas
Mhm.
how to remind yourself
Mhm.
on the regular to be saying this. I would love to get better.
So I will say this, and then I'll leave it open for the audience to say anything they have to say. First of all, thank you for sharing that story. It reminded me of something I forgot to say during my presentation, which is when I said it's infectious. It's free. Gratitude is free. It's portable and it's infectious. When you sort of my view of gratitude was very much shaped by my parents and my family, where it's when times were good, they said what? And when times were bad, they said, alhamdulillah. And why? Because of all the reason I have my health. You're sitting here right in front of me asking me if I'm okay. The sun is shining. I woke up this morning. All of these things that, again, gratitude oftentimes it comes out of trials, right? It comes out of trials. I think it gets easier. I think the more you practice and the more you internalize it, truly internalize gratitude, it becomes easier. And then one of the things I didn't really talk about today, and it really doesn't have a place in this lecture specifically, but I think what gratitude goes hand in hand with is tawakkul, which is this concept that I truly submit and trust in God's plan, right? Those things go hand in hand, but I think all of it requires practice. Can I give the talk to the youth group? I'd be happy to. I'd be happy to. Yeah, of course. Absolutely. Thank you so much. Go ahead. I'm sorry? Oh, birds. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Singing. Well, I live between three homes behind me. On the left side, down the street. Birds. You can hear them during the night, singing or communicating. You can see wild animals, raccoons,
Mhm.
squirrels, sometimes a possum right in Los Angeles. Okay. I saw a raccoon, first time in my life.
Mhm.
Say, oh, what? That. From head to toe. Okay. Standing up. There was two. I see parrots.
Mhm.
They have different sounds.
Yeah.
You hear them,
Yep.
different sounds. You really listen. They don't just say like a crow,
Mhm. Yeah.
but they have different sounds. It's like they're speaking to each other. Also, the more birds I see, the more beautiful the landscape looks. It's a relationship. Seems like.
That's such a
They
beautiful
seem
thing.
more
Yes.
when we don't bother the
Mhm.
trees.
Mhm. Yeah, that's so true.
Yeah, no, during COVID-19, they stopped.
Oh,
Everything changed.
everything changed. And actually, I'm glad you brought that up because, again, I forgot to bring this up during the talk. When the world stopped, the blessing in that and the gratitude came from the fact that coral reefs came back.
Yeah.
People in India could see the Himalayas for the first time because of the lack of smog. There were areas that had died that came back to life. So again, there were things to be grateful for. I think Hazem, you had a.
It's more like reflection to a point that's brought up that I actually don't think about it at all. Like, always thinking or kind of brought up with the perception, the next step, the next stage of my life is always gonna be better. What I'm now in, the worst part, what's coming up is the next better,
Yeah.
which is the bad thing when you think about it. You need to be grateful for what you have now, is the givings. However, it has like bad aspects, but you also appreciate what you have now, and you're gonna be losing in the future.
Exactly.
One great example is COVID that you gave up. Like I give you personally, like when COVID started, I was starting a new job. And at that time, I couldn't gauge how bad the commute is normally. It's like, it was 40 minutes without, it's far, it's about 36 miles. So I was driving 36 miles, like maybe 36 minutes or 40 minutes, right? Depending how far I was going. But then when COVID ended, everything came back into 2 hours. So
Wow.
it's like, okay, of course, COVID was horrible and everything, but like I really appreciated that because no traffic. So
Yeah.
I'm talking about it, say I miss COVID. It's a bad joke, but
Yeah.
it's true.
Yeah.
And you can apply this to a lot of things.
To everything.
Hey, think about what you have now, all the missing, right?
Mhm.
That you will miss in the future.
And there's always and that's the truth is inna ma'al usri yusr. With hardship comes ease. Not after hardship comes ease. With hardship comes ease. There's always something to be grateful for in your current situation. I think somebody in the back had. Thank you. Thank you. Mhm. Oh. Mhm. Yeah, like Nazar, you're talking Nazar. I think to me, the way I interpreted the story was every situation has a blessing. Even on the outside, it can look bad. The son broke his leg. That looks bad. But the farmer knew. No, yeah, no, I know. I definitely understand about Nazar and Hasad. I mean, I believe, so my own personal perspective is I very firmly believe in hasad that's in the Quran, but the ultimate protector is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So I don't think a person can't have more power than your creator. So again, that's the sort of the protective force is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yeah.
To me, unconceivable. First of all, and we're only grounded here in basically on Earth. How much they tell us, much of that is a lie. Right? It doesn't make sense to me. To be so stupid on Earth and fussing on little things, you're dealing with a bunch of ignorant people. Okay, they act ignorant. To me, it seems ignorant. They're not intelligent, not smart, not scientific. To me, it sounds ignorant. That's why I see it. Now, I know lots about science. I study without, like, much of I know that I realize I can read is what I didn't have to be made to study it. I went beyond the requirement for the ideas. Okay? That's where I found out they don't know as much as they say they do. They make it up.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think we all have to think for ourselves and read for ourselves. And honestly, all of this research that I'm presenting is science and data, but we know this. We know this because Allah has said it over and over and over again in the Quran. There are blessings for those of you that see. They're there for those of you that see. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, this one, okay.
Islam is not a man-made.
Mhm.
Allah sent it down and the Prophet gave it to us. After that, there is no one authorized to add anything to Islam or delete anything to Islam.
Right.
We have to stay with the original Islam only
Mhm.
and not, deviate from that. Even we think that we can make improvement here and there,
Mhm.
change something, should not.
Yeah, I mean, I think I agree with you. I also think that with time, our knowledge grows so we can interpret the same verse with more context. So not change it, but sometimes our interpretations grow. That's just my opinion.
That outside of Islam, there's nothing. No other religion is anything. Only Islam is the true religion and only according to the Prophet and the Quran. Not the scientists, scholars can give us some ideas, but they cannot make Islam different. It has to be on the original stuff.
Mhm. And I think I'll just say this and then I think I'll stop. I think we can learn something from all forms of worship. I think there's beauty in all forms of worship. And if you look at all of the different religions and you're in a space where people are worshiping, the love for the creator is there. So I'm Muslim. I believe La ilaha illallah, Muhammad Rasulullah. I can respect someone else's belief in their creator. I can respect the science to support for some people who perhaps don't have that degree of faith. They maybe need some science to support. And so I think that we as humans have to continue to grow and evolve while not obviously modifying the religion.
Disagreement with real science and Islam. Actually, Islam is ahead of science. Quran is beyond science, actually.
Mhm. Yeah, agree. Thank you all so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Marwa Moustafa, for this beautiful and enlightening presentation. And please join us for Doha prayer in our prayer hall right now. And then afterwards, we have our sports day. So please join us at the basketball court after that. Thank you, Samarliko. Sports.